All right, welcome you guys. So this video is just going to be about zones, but it's not going to be about zones in the simple way of just explaining them. I'm going to give you guys kind of a progression from earlier in my trading career versus now how I use them and what significance they play now because I obviously you know that if you've been following me for a while that I trade price action, right? And when trading price action, you're using multiple things, right? To, confirm that analysis. And one of those things that I use is zones, right? Now, I'm not getting in any trades most times off of it, just hitting the zone or rejecting the zone. It's usually before then. I'm using zones now in my career, just to let me know that that trade is possibly going to be one that I can hold, right? Earlier in my career, I was using zones to kind of trap the market, and then I was waiting for it to either break that zone, right? Or I was looking for it to kind of like break and retest another one, right? Or give it kind of something like this. I was looking for a rejection off of the zone. So I was looking for either price to break that zone or I was looking for a price to reject that zone, earlier in my career. Now I use it more so, like I said, to hold trades, right? But obviously, if I'm in it and I see price rejects off of a zone like this, obviously I know that it's rejecting off that zone. But I'm not using zones to get in trades, right? So this is the 1 hour, so you can see this very clear. This is from May 13th, I think, right here. Well, that's like what, 2 weeks, 2 weeks worth of trading, right? So you can pretty much see this purple, right? The zone is pretty valid. This is a new zone, by the way. This one is pretty valid. This is an old zone. This is an old zone. Most of my zones are old. This is an old zone. Well, this is a new zone. This was right here. But as you can see, it was making these wicks up here. So I moved it up some more and it did look good on the higher time frame. So that was an old zone that I just adjusted, right? So I'm pretty much just moving with the market. And that's okay. Most of these zones are old zones and I don't usually move them, but sometimes it's okay to adjust those zones, right? Especially when price is making new highs and new lows. Think TradingView just paused on us. TradingView in the middle of a video, right? That's what you have to roll with the punches for. Yeah, it literally just paused on us. Sometimes it does this, and it's probably because I have a lot of things running, right? But I'm gonna keep going, right? Because y'all can still see the screen, and I don't want to stop and try to wait on TradingView to pick back up or load back up, right? But that's how I trade zones now, as to before. Like I said before, I was just kind of using the zones to kind of trap the market, and I was looking for either break or rejections off of that to enter trades. Now I'm not, just waiting for it to do those things to enter trades, right? I'm going again based off candle formation, based off candlesticks, based off a lot more stuff, liquidity grab, some things like that. So it just depends on what the market is doing that day and what I see. But yeah, so I'm never entering trades just basically or solely off of it breaking a zone as opposed to before. Now, many of you, if you're in your trading career early on, I'm not going to tell you that, you know, um, not entering off of zones or something like that. You can do whatever you want. I'm just saying how the progression has came for me. This is kind of wild though. Hang on. 1 minute, you guys, 1 minute, because this is, I'm gonna bring it back up. All right. So everyone can see it. Everyone can see it. So this is the 15 minutes. So I'm gonna take it back to the hour and I'm gonna keep talking. But yeah, I had to load it for you guys because that was OD, right? That was OD. So like I was saying, right? So my progression from using zones or implementing zones has basically went from using them to enter trades to using them to hold trades. So that's my progression. And um that's the difference between bigger trades, of course, but that's also the difference between the amount of trades that I'm probably taking as well. Right now, um I'm pretty much taking fewer trades, right? I might take 4 or 5 trades in a week. Before I was probably taking like 9 to 10 trades in a week, right? And also because I had zones on a smaller time frame. Now you notice all my zones. This is the 1 hour. This is the 4 hour, right? You can probably tell that most of my zones because it's not that lot, right? It's not that many if you look at it, right? If you've been trading for a while, you know this is not that many. I'm pretty much marking my zones off on the higher time frames. Whereas I did that before, but before I was also putting the zones on things like the 3 minute, the 1 minute, 5 minute, and 15 minute, things like that. I was, using those time frames to put or input my zones, right? Like I said, I had a few on the higher time frames, but now mainly all these zones are from the higher time frame, right? 1 hour, 4 hour daily, right? That's what these zones come from. Um, so yeah, like I said, the main difference is just me holding trades longer, being able to get re-entries now. Whereas before I didn't get re-entries, um, which means more money, right? If you know trading, you know that re-entering, that can take you from $1,000 day to a $2,000 day, right? That can take you from a 5,000 to $10,000 day, right? That can take you from a $200 day to a $500 day, right? Just being able to read the market as far as where you're going to re-enter, if you're going to re-enter at all, right? So that's my progression from zones. But like I said, I'm not going to tell anyone, especially if you're early in your career, to just place your zones on a higher time frame. I'm going to say do what works best for you, right? Because if you come in and you're putting your zones on a 1 minute, 3 minute, right? You may be scalping, you may be just trying to catch, 500, 600 pips. That can work for you, right? I'm just giving you an insight onto how I trade and what has been profitable and successful for me, right? So that's pretty much my progression from zones. Um, and like I said before, right, zones are just um, you know, pretty much how retail traders, mark off the market, kind of condense the market, right? Because I mean, and this is with anything, right? If you can make anything smaller, if you can make anything simpler, right, you have a better shot at being more successful, right? If you can zone in on one thing or a few things, you have a way higher success rate. And the markets, financial markets are no different than that. And that's where zones come into play, right? You have stuff like supply zone, demand zone, things of that nature, and different other kind of zones, but everything is just going to be the same, right? When it's all said and done, no matter the terminology, right? You're just marking off the market, right? Or you're just marking off a space in the market to make it more readable and more accessible, right? That's all you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're saying you're marking that zone at a at a supply zone. It doesn't matter if you're marking that zone, as a liquidity grab zone. It doesn't matter if you're marking it as a demand zone, right? It's marking off the market to make it smaller for you, to condense it for you so you can understand it and be able to make a more rational, emotionless decision, right? That's pretty much what zones are. So hope this call helped you guys. My calls are always short. I'm never making my calls long because I do know not saying, people's attention span is small, but I like to get to the point. And I feel like my calls are short, but they add value, in the simplest form, right? Because I'm not going to get in here and I'm not going to give you all this terminology, things that you can't understand because that's not going to make you, trade better, right? Um, this is not a spelling bee, right? It's not a spelling bee. So, you know, the more the more vocabulary you have does not is not going to translate into more money you have, right? Now, as you go along in your journey or in your trading career, now, of course, you want to be able to learn different terminology and, be able to grasp it. But you also want to be able to relate it in the simplest way possible, right? In the simplest form possible, so that not only that you can understand, but that, if you get to the point that you can, show people or teach people and they will be able to understand as well. Because the hard part is not learning how to trade. The hard part is learning how to manage your emotions. And the faster you can, get people to kind of understand, right, the market, right, the faster they can understand themselves when they're entering these trades or entering the market and figure out, their trading presence in this space. And the more likely that they will be successful and have, success and longevity, right? So that's the whole goal of this channel. It's not to get on here and have, 30-minute videos, 40-minute videos, hour videos talking about nothing, just shooting the breeze. My videos are straight to the point. I'm never talking about off topics. I'm never trying to drag these videos. I don't know what the algorithm is showing, but I just want to add value. I'm not worrying about my videos being a certain amount of time, right? I just want to make sure I add value, right? So like this video, let me know if you like it, right? Actually give me a like if you like it. If not, give me a dislike, right? And tell me what you don't like, and I can go back and double down on these videos and make them better, right? My whole thing is to add value, right? I'm making money in the market already. Um, I'm not a seven-figure trader, not a eight-figure trader. I've been a six-figure 1 year, not consistently, right? But I'm making money in the market. So I'm doing this to help you guys. So help me help you. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, and I can double down on these videos and add more value, right? But I think me coming on here and making them as simple as possible is very good, right? Everybody can understand, me pretty much taking my um progression from using zones, right? From being able to simply just enter trades off of them to, capitalizing off of them and being able to hold trades and also know when to close trades, right? So that's pretty much it for this video. Hope this video helped you guys understand my progression from zones. And just like anything, right? So this is my progression from zones, but you're gonna have a progression from everything, right? From candlestick understanding to candle pattern understanding, um, to liquidity grabs, from time frame confluency. You're gonna have a progression of on, where you started, right? Based on where you are, right? And how you use that particular knowledge. So hope this call helped you guys and see you guys at the top because the bottom is not an option.